Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at lulu.com today. I'm noticing a very disturbing trend on social media. And that trend is of people forming cults around people on platforms like YouTube. And as people form these cults around people, what they do is never challenge anything that is presented to them and follow the lead of those individuals without ever questioning anything they present to them. Now, I noticed this whole trend of people forming cults around people on social media when the late Kevin Samuels was alive. Now, when the late Kevin Samuels was alive, he introduced the whole philosophy of the high value man, and as he introduced this whole philosophy, many YouTubers went to go out here and jump on his bandwagon, looking to create a covert contract where they thought they could elevate their clout by being at his side, and many others looked to go out here and emulate Kevin Samuels because he was going out here and doing what they wanted to do, which was go out here and confront the black women they had issues with. However, as they were looking to go out here and follow Kevin Samuels, many of these men got upset when any other man like myself and many others would go out here and look to criticize Kevin Samuels regarding many of his talking points, which many of us said were taken from white YouTubers and also taken from many other platforms. Many of these individuals, because they were a part of this hive mind, they looked to become a part of what I call the high value cult, and anyone who presented criticism of Kevin Samuels was attacked in their comment section, and some individuals even took it to the extreme of going to try to stalk and harass other YouTubers by going to their Facebook or their Instagram or other social media to send them messages as related to them presenting counterpoints as related to the late Kevin Samuels when he was alive. Now, I'm noticing this trend getting worse, and I'm noticing people making a cult around YouTuber Young Rippa59, and as he has created his whole line of Rippaverse comics, he has promoted the narrative that we will win and goes out here promoting his Rippaverse comics under the whole narrative of them not being so-called woke. And what's really sad is that when people present constructive criticism as related to his foundation, or even make criticisms of his Isom comic book, many of these individuals get extremely defensive, and that's not being a fan, because I have been a fan of comics and superheroes for years, and I can understand where people are coming from when they criticize errors and mistakes that are made as related to some writers or things that aren't really going right during a run. Again, there's open room for criticism, but with Young Rippa59, there's no criticism at all that is people taking it and accepting it. No, you got a lot of people who just get argumentative, get defensive and hostile whenever somebody points out criticism regarding his work or his philosophies. And that's really troubling because it shows me how another cult is forming around another person on social media. Now, another incident that really troubled me as related to the cult mindset that is forming on social media is the recent incident with Kai Cenat on Twitch, wherein he announced he was going to be giving out PlayStation 5s and gift cards for free. And a whole bunch of teenagers, over 2,000 of them, went down to Union Square here in Midtown Manhattan, and they basically incited a riot as they waited for Kai Cenat to arrive. And again, it was the same cult-like mindset that motivated those teenagers to go down to Union Square. And when I look at all of these incidents, they show me a pattern of people creating cults around individuals on social media, and shows me that people are going out here walking down the information superhighway in the footsteps of a ragdoll dance entranced, spellbound by one individual, and they're spellbound because that individual tells them what they want to hear, what makes them feel good, and because this person is telling them what they want to hear and makes them feel good regarding whatever issue they're having, they will follow that person without ever thinking for themselves. And that's really scary when you consider that the information superhighway is supposed to be a place where you're supposed to expand your thinking and get perspective on things. It's really scary because, again, it shows me that instead of thinking, people are creating these cults around people, and creating these cults around people is scary because if somebody like Kai Cenat can influence people to go down to Union Square and participate in a riot, that just shows me the dangers of the influence of people on social media, people who have great power but aren't looking to use their power responsibly. That is the scary part about many of these social media influencers, and I believe the root of this problem is the complete collapse of the family. Now, Mad Black 80 in one of his classic videos pointed out why a lot of these people go out here and look to follow behind people like a Kevin Samuels, a Young Rippa 5'9", or a Kai Cenat, and that is because many of these people don't have a father in their lives to show them an example of leadership, and because they don't have a father in their life to show them an example of leadership, they look to follow behind anyone who looks like somebody they believe they can identify with. And this is very similar to what I saw growing up in the South Bronx with a lot of young brothers who did not have a father in their life. What would happen is they would go out here and look for other men to emulate because they had no man to model manhood from. So this is how many young brothers got caught up in things like comic books and science fiction and characters like that if they were latchkey and stayed home, or others wound up getting involved with drug dealers because there, again, was no men in the community like their fathers there. And because of that lack of a father to show them an example of leadership, they just followed behind whoever they saw had some power. And that's what I'm seeing as related to these social media cults. I'm seeing what happens as related to the deterioration of the American family, because what has happened over the last 60 years is as the American family has deteriorated, most kids have not been raised by mothers and fathers. No, most kids were raised by daycare, and as they were raised by daycare, they were put first in front of TVs, and then they were put in front of cell phones, and as they were put in front of cell phones on social media, they learned to relate to those that they saw on social media, and this is how we start to see the start of these cults. And this is the foundation of this cult-like mindset where people are out here looking to follow blindly behind someone. They're looking to follow blindly behind someone because they never had a real man in their lives or real woman to be a leader in their families, and because they never had a real person to show them an example of leadership, they look to follow behind people on social media blindly, and that's not a good thing to do, because you should always be in a place when you're dealing with people on social media where you can go out here and challenge and counter their points, because the whole point of social media is to be a social environment, and as a social environment, you're not just supposed to go along to get along and agree with whatever somebody is saying because they tell you what you want to hear. No, you need to be able to hear the counterpoints, and you need to be able to have somebody who can present counterpoints and have those counterpoints presented in a platform. And again, when you're dealing with the cult-like mindset, the whole thing is with cults, again, it's always the one way of that individual, and that's a very scary place to be, because you know, when it comes to cult leaders, oftentimes they don't really lead you to good places, and they really don't really follow their own philosophies. That was shown with Kevin Samuels when he was confronted by Nicki Minaj. And when he was confronted by Nicki Minaj, he looked to clout chase rather than stand on the principles of being this high value man and letting Nicki Minaj know that her values were were really derogatory to black women. Instead of him having the backbone and the stones to stand up to Nicki Minaj as related to her presenting a degraded image of black women, what he did was buckle under the pressure, looking to gain clout and favor with Hollywood, creating a covert contract, thinking that he would get influence. Again, this is where the cult of high value basically fell apart. And as the cult of high value fell apart, many of the believers learned the truth as related to it. But what's really even sadder is that the whole thing with the high value cult is the high value cult still has followers, and it still has followers to this day, even after Kevin Samuels passed away. But what's really scary here is the whole trend of these cults that people are forming around people, making gods out of people when God said, "Ye shall have no other gods before me," and creating idols out of people and participating in modern day idolatry online. As they participate in idolatry online, I'm again noticing this whole trend of people creating cults. And again, these cults are not good because they show me that people desperately need to understand what leadership is, and they don't understand what leadership is because a father, by his example, shows you how to lead, and as he shows you how to lead, you learn how to become your own person. You learn how to think for yourself. You learn how to have your own mind, and you learn that you just can't go along to get along with whatever somebody's saying. Yes, I can agree with talking points that people can present, but I also can make my own observations and opinions, and I can also keep my mind open to listen to somebody else's counterpoints and perspectives. That's what I learned being raised by a father and having my brother around, learning that a man has to be able to have his own opinions and observations and just can't go along to get along and just can't go with what somebody says online, because going with what somebody says online is the worst thing you could ever do, because the internet is filled with a lot of lies. The internet is filled with a lot of misinformation. And if you really don't do your research, you could wind up buying into ideals and ideas that could just basically mess your entire life up. I mean, I've had people sending me stories and telling me things in the comment section on certain videos I've done. Like there was one I did about the Central Park, not Central Park, but the city by Karen. People were just dropping all sorts of misinformation, and I had to go out here and do my own research and find out what the facts really were. And again, anything people say on the internet, you've got to take with a grain of salt, because a lot of what is presented here may not be true, and that's why you just can't go out here and get involved in these cults as related to the influence of these individuals. No, you have to take everything people say, including myself, with a grain of salt, and you have to take it with a grain of salt. You just cannot go out here and put a hive around someone and just follow blindly. No, the whole point of you being out here on the internet, you have to go out here and just think objectively about what's being presented. And this is where I have an issue with a lot of these social media types. They don't want to follow what I learned way back when I read the first appearance of Spider-Man, which was, with great power comes great responsibility. And as a social media influencer, you have a responsibility to go out here and influence people in a positive fashion, and you have a responsibility to present them with information that is objective and balanced. And you have a responsibility to go out here and do this, because the whole thing is you don't want to go out here and mislead people. Yes, there are some who want to make fast money by call themselves pulling this kind of stuff. But as I see it, I have an ethical responsibility to go out here and try to present information in a responsible fashion. And again, I don't want to form a cult. No, I want to go out here and make it where you can make informed choices, because informed choices allow you to go out here and make the best decisions for yourself. And again, you need objective information that allows you to make those informed choices for yourself. And that's not something cult leaders want you to do. No, they want you to follow blindly so they can go out here and make the most money off of you. They don't really care about people. All they want to do is make a fast dollar at the expense of people. And that's where these cults really exploit many of their followers. And again, this is an issue I have with many people who promote this cult-like mindset. And again, a lot of people are getting taken advantage of because they believe this person is going to be some sort of savior. They create a covert contract around this individual, and they believe this person is going to be the one that goes out here and is going to make life better. But that's not about them, it's about you. And again, you have to take responsibility for your own life, not look to live vicariously through individuals like a Kevin Samuels or a Young Ripple or a Kai Cenat. No, you have to go out here and live your own life, because that's what life is about. As men and women, you have to lead your own life and not look to follow behind someone who has a philosophy. No, you have to go out here and look to lead your own life. And what I'm seeing with people who are a part of these internet cults is that they're looking to go out here and follow the leader instead of taking the lead in their own life. And that's why they're so defensive of these people online, when in actuality you should take them with a grain of salt, because everybody does get it wrong. Sometimes everybody does make mistakes, and people are human. And when I look at, again, this whole trend of people forming cults, it's a scary one, because it's showing me people really are not looking to use the internet to think for themselves. No, all they're looking to do is go out here and follow behind someone. And that really shows me how our family is broken down, because without a father to lead the family, people are looking to follow the lead of whoever is put on the screen online and tells them whatever they want to hear. And that's a really bad place to be, because sometimes when people tell you what they want to hear, they keep you from telling you what you need to know. And as they keep you from getting what you need to know, you wind up not getting information that will help you come to the next level. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, you can find it on lulu.com right now in paperback, and you can get a copy by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up many of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s in this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Get your copy of John Haynes, 1987 in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.